Okay, I'm done. Questions, comments, notions, thoughts, ideas, queries, criticisms, especially criticisms. Don't embarrass me now. Yeah, what do we got? Yeah, sure.
I'm curious, just to make sure I understood your point earlier, I think I did, that you don't feel that we should keep teaching kids how to do things by hand in school. What's the point? You're not going to use it once you graduate, sort of thing. Is that right? Like, would you say that we should start each student like, the computer can solve calculus, so why teach you calculus? Let's move on to how we can apply it?
Yes, I think that is more or less what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you have a machine capable of doing calculus, that teaching you how to use that tool to then use calculus to understand its methods, its principles, its import, and its utility is much more important than teaching you how to replicate what the machine can do. So yes, you do understand my point.
Okay, and then my second question is, how do you feel about people that have said that it's part of the reason we have some of the problems we have with like whatever nuclear stuff is that people can take the technology, they don't understand where it came from, but they can take it and build, a bomb or whatever. And that the people that develop the technology have a respect for it because they know what it took to do. So do you think that by just giving people free rein with any new technology and let them do whatever they will with it, that's going to be, unsafe or?
Tough problem. No argument. Nuclear proliferation is the first of many of those technologies we're concerned about, right? Nanotechnology, any kind of self-replicating thing, genetic technology, all of those. And there is this terrible thing, this terrible scenario that Bill Joy set out in an essay that he did for Wired a couple of years ago that's very telling on this. That says, hey, look, it's much easier once somebody's figured it out. It's like the problem of computer viruses now, right? The first computer virus is hard to write. But once they're written, any script kiddie can pick them up and be a nuisance, right? And so as the stakes go up, this is a pretty serious problem. And yes, it is. The networks that we have to maintain and manage our society, they're incredibly fragile. Like one of the ways that I know that people aren't trying hard enough to kill us, how hard is it to disrupt the energy network and the information network and the financial network for that matter? I mean, those things are amazingly vulnerable. No surprise there. And so, yeah, you're right. This is absolutely a concern and a consideration. But my claim is there is no stopping. Because the problems we have must be solved or we collapse. And the only way to solve the problems that we have is using technology to solve them. So our destiny lies in technology, including countermeasures to deal with the very things you're talking about. The culture of improvement, there's no turning back. And so, absolutely, it's got to be embraced, but every one of those vectors is a concern and a consideration. And so, just like in the information industry, what we do is invent countermeasures to prevent the script kiddies from disrupting things. And we manage to, most of the time, stay one step ahead. We'll have to do the same thing. And yeah, does the possibility of cataclysm exist? It certainly does. And it has since we invented nuclear weapons. That's what I got for you. Yes?
In areas of industry like healthcare, we're seeing huge advancements in technology, like e-charting, portable care units like the computer tablet, and so on. The opponents of these programs, not allowing them to foster, are really the Luddites that you spoke about, are like the doctors, the people that are really having a lot of influence in shaping where they go in the future. So in an area like that, do we go on without them? Do we leave the Luddites behind, or do we keep attempting to include them and then halt the progression?
That is a fantastic question, and I believe that this is the central difficulty in having technology accelerate our institutions, is that there are so many institutions that cannot keep pace with the change that's coming. Now, Alvin Toffler in Future Shock in the 1970s, he wrote about this very thing. Said, look, this is going to happen. This pace of change will one day get faster than people can stand. Now, I actually think he's wrong about that. Because I think the room full of people I'm looking at here, bring it on, baby. You have lived through this change. You expect it. You know that nothing will be permanent. You don't expect that the tool you learn today will be the tool you use tomorrow. It's just not what you do not have that expectation of the world. So I think largely it could be a generational thing. I think that the next, like people talk about it all the time in education. Oh, well, the young faculty, they embrace this technology. They see it as a way to, and so it could just be a generational thing. And the reason why this generation would be different than the other one is because this generation grew up understanding that it changes every day. That, yeah, you don't keep it, you throw it away. Now, you'll improve on that and say you don't throw it away, you recycle it. But you don't expect it to last forever. You don't expect your way to be the way. So, always with me trying to find the way it could work, that's the way it could work. What's the way it's working now? In this extremely halting way. In commercial, in the world of commerce, it's a rocket ride. Because if you get a set of people who say, no, we need to take this slow. We need to do this. We need to do that. There's another company that says, we'll eat those people's lunch. Bang! But when you have, a monopoly, right? Whether it's healthcare in a monopoly, education in a monopoly, government in a monopoly, then you have the leisure. You have the leisure. Nobody's going to get hurt on this deal. Just relax. Take it easy. So maybe the introduction of a competitive element and some new blood. Other ideas? Yes, sir.
Hey, you posted, I think you said it was former president of Cornell who was talking, the
Frank
critique.
Rhodes.
Yeah, and it seemed like a harsh critique on the Socratic method in general as a method of teaching. And I was curious if you agreed with that or if you disagreed with that.
I think that having talked to Professor Rhodes, I have a better sense of, because oftentimes grabbing a single item. He's not saying that the standard mechanisms that we use have no value, and neither am I. But what he is saying is, how can it be that, imagine that we lived before books. Okay, so we lived before books. There was still education, and so people are being taught. Somebody says, hey, look, books. Not so much with the books. You need to use the old noggin. What if you don't have that book? I had a teacher in high school. His name was Bruno Smolik. He's dead now. Nice guy. Brilliant, really good mathematician. And one day I brought my calculator in to show him. Senor, throw that in the Sea of Japan. Why? But Mr. Smolik, it does this and it does. It'll run out of batteries. What do you do then? Yeah, I don't know. So he was a big slide rule guy, right? And he had arguments. Slide rule is, you have to have a better understanding of the relative quantities. You can't use a slide rule unless you have that. It makes sure that you get closer to the correct answer, so on and so forth. Well, yeah, but, the slide rule? And so it isn't that I or Professor Rhodes is saying, oh yeah, everything that's gone before must be swept away. But it's really easy when you think about elementary school. And so I like to think about elementary school. We spend an awful lot of time teaching kids long division. And they spend an awful lot of time learning it. How much time do you spend doing long division? How much understanding did you gain from doing long division? Now, there are lots of people who give the secondary value theorem. They say, oh, well, it isn't about long division. It's about the value you get from doing long division. It's like long division is the push-ups of the mind. But see, I don't buy that. I think that if you use information technology to teach mathematics, you can get a much, much richer understanding of mathematics, about the relative meaning of slope and intercept, the 2-point forms, connection to the slope-intercept forms, connection to the point-slope form, and you can see how all of those entities move and groove, and then you can be challenged to write that very same thing in Excel, perhaps. Excel's what we should be teaching kids, not multi-column addition. And so it's absurd that not only do we not teach them, they are forbidden to use it. Just like teachers forbid them to use the internet. Teachers forbid them to use the internet to get their sources. No, you must use books. And the students use Google Print. Why is this? Because the students get it and the teachers don't. And that's a generational thing. And I'm not sure we can wait. That's why I'm so frustrated by this. Other comments, questions, notions, thoughts. How about somebody says, you are nuts? Yes, sir.
Do you know that book?
No, it's bad enough that you invite me here every year. You know, Kenny, what I would love to do is find somebody who can figure out how, I believe that half the puzzle is almost figured out. The puzzle where we figure out how to release the resources to stop, figuring out what to stop doing. Because, think about it. If you were in my position, right? Think about, I used to work here, and somebody says, hey, why don't you go be CIO at another place? And you go look at this place, think, man, look at all the money they're spending on all these other things and all the people. What am I going to do? And suddenly somebody says, oh, don't worry, you can get much better capabilities for free. Oh, I didn't think about that. Okay. That's an enormous thing. That's an amazing thing. It's like one of those magical things that I'm talking about. But, okay, so what? So how will that help? Apart from making it better to send email, what now, Lieutenant? No book till that gets figured out. Yes, sir.
I like the idea of having individuals take action to try and implement some of the stuff in the technology and within the classroom and things like that. If you were to recommend a thing or two that you think governments might be able to help along the way, us being able to implement that, what might they be?
Well, let me make sure I understood your question. What you're saying is you like the idea of individuals maybe being able to influence it, but what could governments do? Well, in Arizona, we're involved in a project called IDEAL. IDEAL is integrated data to enhance Arizona's learning. And it's sort of a riff on this same sort of concept. Right now, you have all kinds of K-12 institutions who are in various states of, wow, we really could use a WebCT. We should build one. We should buy one. We should build one. We should have our own, and we should design it. Well, because why? And so what we've done is we've begun to build a statewide resource to deploy that same kind of capability, but at the level of the state. So now, think about what that could be if it were done properly. What it could be if it were done properly. You have people, Arizona State produces 2/3 of the new teachers. And so those new teachers could be studying how to produce resources for that environment, right? How to produce, think of it as the Google video, right? The Google video of education. Now, before you think that's a crazy idea, think back to one of your best physics teachers. A lot of good physics teachers are great at, the monkey experiment. You know, the one where the monkey drops and you have the electromagnet and you shoot the monkey and the monkey drops, and you didn't see the monkey experiment? You did? Well, some people are really good at that. They're really good at it. They can annotate it, they can explain it, and most people are not really good at it. And so producing those kinds of integrated assets as part of the educational experience, and then making them available, and then an eBay-like system of reputation. It's almost like peer review, it's like citation. The more people use this, the more teachers are using it, the better that students perform when they're doing it, the more popular that piece of curriculum becomes. There is no reason we use textbooks. There's just no reason. It is absurd that we use textbooks. It is simply because the textbook companies own the textbooks that we use textbooks. It is ridiculous. Think about the value of a textbook relative. How many of you have bought a textbook for 2 chapters, 3 chapters, no chapters? And what do you do with it when you're done? Well, you got 2 choices. You can sell it back, or you can keep it and never look at it again. Those are your 2 choices. If you had them digitally, they could be part of your web of stuff that you could look up anytime using your own Google search, right? To be able to find things, see them, interact with them. This is clearly what we should be doing. But we're not. And every year that goes by, we just keep not doing it. We keep not doing it, and we have the same reasons for not doing it. we have to somehow set this stuff free. We absolutely have to set this stuff free. Think about scientific publishing. Think about scientific publishing of all kinds. Professors write the stuff. They get nominally compensated, if at all. Professors review the stuff. They are nominally compensated, if at all. Those reviews determine what goes in and what goes out, and they improve the quality of the stuff. And then the publisher locks it away so you can't have it, and then sells it back to the very academics that reviewed it and produced it in the first place, so that you and all of us can have access to it. Now, this was interesting in 1850, when it was hard to publish books. This is no longer interesting. It's just an artifact. But we cannot shake the old way off, even though it's completely obvious that it should be shaken off. And you could make that change because you're the consumer, and you could demand it to change. And all it takes is some defections, and it will happen like that. Look at what Steve Jobs was able to do with iTunes. All he had to do was get a couple people signed up. Katie bar the door, every song's online. All you have to do is get the business model done. And you never go back. They never get the stranglehold again. Yes, sir. Oh, okay. Sorry.
We have a question from one of our off-campus students.
Oh, cool.
They're asking, are you assuming that technology is the solution to all human problems? And what about the role of human feelings in your envisioned future?
Well, I could care less about human feelings. No. Let me say this about it. I think that we're sailing into some pretty dangerous waters. I think that human psychology is about to change in a very fundamental way. Because the fidelity of our communication, the fidelity of our memories, is about to go quantum leap forward. Already with Flickr, it's really easy for you to never be able to forget that night at the bar. Like, never forget it. They got the picture of you with the pool cue and the girl. It's up on Flickr, and for the rest of your life, they'll always be able to show it to you. And every day that goes by, more and more pictures get taken, right? More and more annotations are done, more and more perfect fidelity memory. Well, what about human feelings? Well, it's going to have some profound effects on human feelings. It's going to make it really weird to argue with people. It's already kind of gotten weird to argue with people. I remember when you used to just argue with people, and you could never determine who was right. It was like this is why I talk so loud. I could always win. But now, if somebody always ruins it. No. Robert De Niro was 2 in Deer Hunter. Look, there's IMDb. What are you talking about? So it's already kind of changed that dynamic, but it's clearly going to change all sorts of interpersonal dynamics because your behavior will be played back to you with perfect fidelity. Your wife, your husband will say, "You're a jerk. Look. You said you'd take out the garbage." Before the words, "No, I guess I did." Well, I think this is going to have some problems. There's a book I really like called Aging Well. And Aging Well is a longitudinal study of what it takes for a senior citizen to be happy. And one of the things that they found in this longitudinal study is one of the things it takes for a senior citizen to be happy is the ability to forget the injuries done to you when you were younger. To forget them, to soften the edges, to forget that your parents were jerks, to forget that you got beaten as a child, to forget that your first wife never loved you, to forget it, to forgive it, to let it go. But if you can play it over and over and over again every night, just like those people who watch home movies in the movies, I don't know, this is going to have profound effects on human psychology. But there's no way, look, this is a force of nature now. This culture of improvement's a force of nature. And so everything's in the ballpark. I mean, what do we do right now to try to manage human feelings? Well, for a while we were trying pharmaceuticals like they were going out of style, and they helped some people and they hurt others. But I just saw in a Wall Street Journal the New York Times yesterday, that people have discovered that a combination of talk therapy and pharmaceuticals is far superior to either alone. Hey, now that's what I'm talking about. That's a fantastic way to address that problem, which we at first addressed with a primarily technological solution and then understood how to forge that technology into a human solution. There's nothing that says the technology has to be impersonal. Technology can be dramatically personal. Technology, think about, this thing's all about personal. It greatly expands your personal life. It allows you to maintain connections with people you otherwise would lose. It enriches your life, absolutely, no doubt about it. And once it's video, as long as you look pretty good, it'll be fantastic for you. Other questions, comments, thoughts, notions, ideas, criticisms? Yes, sir.
More of a comment back to the whole textbook issue and how it's kind of an archaic system with how the review and all that. I was thinking maybe a parallel thing that's going on right now is with the music industry. How they went from, at first it was kind of radio or live music, then radio, and then record CDs, and then iTunes comes out and they kind of undercut the music industry. Or you had Napster before that, it was free. On the band Radiohead's coming out with a new album, and they're going to offer it completely free on their website.
You
as
pay
much
whatever
as
you want.
what you think is a fair price. Exact. Do you have thoughts on how that could be kind of like parallel to like the textbook industry or academia? Or
I do. I think that you're right, that all the media is subject to the same kind of model. Bits are free. Like it or not, they're free. You can try to make them for pay, but they squeak out through the edges. And that makes it really tough. We're engaged right now in a measure-countermeasure thing, where on college campuses, the RIAA sends us demand letters. And so then we have to defend our students, and the way we can defend them is to keep them out of trouble in the first place, so we try to stop them from being able to share music. And then the programs evolve to get around our countermeasures, and the RIAA comes in and sues us, and then we have to try to help again. But in the end, you have to get to some stable market position. Now, what I think is really interesting, whenever I look at these kinds of issues, is to change the history. It's an artifact of history that there even is a music business. Right? There's been music for thousands of years, right? The music business comes out when people can record it. And because recordings were really expensive. Right? Recordings were expensive. They were hard to create. They were hard to mass produce. And so naturally there's value there. And so method by method, we kept changing the value that we would provide, but we were still providing value. And then along comes no marginal cost reproduction of music. What if that had come first? There's nothing that says it had to come last. What if it had come first? If it had come first, then this whole thing about getting paid, record labels to get paid to make all this money so the Rolling Stones can have copyright for 25 years, this just wouldn't have ever happened. And so then you have to ask yourself, well, would society be better or worse off for it not having happened? I think it's really clear. It's really clear that we've gone overboard on copyright protection. It's really clear that it's no longer serving the interests of society as much as it is the interests of individual copyright holders. Now, I'm not saying that we got to go to no copyright, but surely there's a point at which ideas like Jefferson said return to their free state. And we keep pushing that the wrong direction. But I think the technology it's a measure-countermeasure thing. And we're beginning to learn how to grapple with that. I, for one, 99 cents to save looking for a song, downloading it, having it not be the right one, having it be corrupted, having it be this, having it be that. 99 cents is a fair deal. That's the right price for a song. I can go with that. So I think the same kind of thing happens in textbooks. And don't forget, a lot of cost gets taken out. You don't make the book, you don't ship the book, you don't, inventory the book, But the people who get disintermediated, that's what's hard. And when they've got power, this is what's making our institutions slow to change. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. This is always the hardest one.
Well, I'm not going to ask anything. I'm going to say I'm the Grim Reaper in a way and the thank you in a way. It's wonderful to have you back. We miss you.
Thanks very much.
We miss you a lot.
That's all.
I'm guessing if you want to, you can get him started again. He's right over here.